Hey guys, welcome to this month. Well, the first MSPs in conversation for 2026. We're already in February, which is incredibly depressing, but time flies when you're having fun. Today, though, we are here to talk about starting the year strong, building a pipeline that actually converts. We've got Aaron and KJ or Crystal with us. So sales and marketing, two sides of the same coin. So I'm really looking forward to the conversation today. As always, this is recorded, so it will be cut up into a podcast, into the videos will go on to YouTube, Vimeo, and all of those things. So if you do need to drop off, no stress, it'll be available later. Please share it around. These sessions are always a great resource for your team members, other businesses. There's a lot of value in it that extends even beyond MSPs. Day-to-day operations. So today a little bit quickly about hosted network. Well, you can tell I'm a little bit rough. It's my first one for the year. I'm still figuring out my groove here. So very quickly about hosted network. If you don't know who we are, hosted network is a wholesale cloud and telco provider for Aussie MSPs. We started as an MSP ourselves 20 odd years ago, and we converted to 100% wholesale about 15 odd years ago. So most of our team come from MSP land, and our value prop to you guys is that we understand the language, we understand the pain and the processes that your team work through. So over 300 MSPs now transact through hosted network, and our partner program has been built from feedback from them all. So together as our team, we like to get shit done across your cloud and telco. So delivering cloud and telco the way it should be for MSPs, simple, easy, with no margin burn. But as I always like to say, that is enough from me. We are here to listen to Crystal and Aaron. Aaron, hopefully you've sorted yourself out. Had some technology difficulties beforehand.
Yeah, I'm
So
sorted.
we'll start with Crystal. Crystal, thank you for joining
Good
us.
decision.
Would you mind doing a quick introduction to yourself and One Little Seed?
Sure, thanks, Ben. So, for those of you who don't know One Little Seed, we are a marketing agency with a difference. So, for those of you who are business owners, I have a business mentor. We define ourselves as a hybrid agency. My business mentor hates that term, but we don't have account managers. We have marketing managers who sit within your organization, like your part-time employee, but then they're backed by a team who, much like the hosted network ethos, we get shit done. We don't come in and say, you should do this. We go along and we do it. We've been supporting a number of MSPs across our journey, and we've got, a lot of lessons there. We only do tech. We have some larger guys as well. So we've got a really nice view across the industry, if I do say so myself. Work hand in hand with Aaron across accounts, sales and marketing. If they're not talking, if they're not joined at the hip, you're quite frankly pouring money down a drain on both sides of the coin. So, with that in mind, Mr. Smith.
Mr.
Sales.
Smith,
Welcome. Yeah,
not the
welcome.
Matrix.
Thank you.
Sales.
No, not the Matrix. Sales. Look, we're sales and business growth, because ultimately, once sales and marketing get it right, we've been doing this for 3 years as of the 31st of January. So hey, happy birthday us. We survived, which is great, and grew a little bit on the way. So more Moreforbility, we are about getting into your business, much the same as KJ and Ben. We don't walk in, seagull the thing, and then disappear for a month, then let it fly back in a month later, and seagull again and tell you everything that's wrong. We walk alongside you. We help you guys get to where you need to go from a growth standpoint. Ultimately every owner gets to the point where they need to be gently suggested that it might be time to get out of your own way and build out that leadership team, but leadership team growth and sales and all those sorts of things. And we help with that.
Amazing. Well, a little disclaimer, I've known KJ and Aaron for many years now, and they actually work with a number of our mutual customers as well, which is one of the reasons I invite them here today, because I've seen the success, and I've run an MSP, I run a marketing team, run sales teams, and it's not easy, right? So our goal today is to really provide you guys, if we provide you one light bulb moment, around, driving your pipeline to, converting, then I feel like we've done our, today's been a success. So with that in mind, jumping too far forward, let me stop sharing and we will jump into it. As always, if you do have questions, please drop them in the chat. If you've had experiences, if you've seen things that work as well that you're willing to share, please drop them in the chat as well, and we'll sort of read them out as we go. But let's start off with, what are we doing here today? So we're here to talk about moving deals through the pipeline process faster, right? Not just generating more leads, but actually progressing and closing the ones that you've got, as well as generating more leads, but making sure that they flow through, right? We've all quoted something before and, been too busy, and, that's, we've lost that sale or whatever the case might be. Sorry, Aaron's microphone might be a little bit off. There we go. Thank you, Norton. Appreciate that. Aaron's currently outside, which is polar opposite of most IT, right? Out in the sunshine, doing a webinar. I need to learn.
Sales guys should be out and about, though.
This is true. This is true.
I am out and about. I'm doing my job. That's the point.
I also think to Norton, Aaron just projects well, in terms of his.
I just need to talk really quietly like this, and then Norton, it should be okay. We'll get there.
All right. So we're going to start off. KJ, I'm going to throw this to you. But when you look at most MSPs pipelines that you've dealt with, that you've, over the years, where do you see deals getting stuck the most, and why?
Look, I think there are a couple of sides to this coin, and from a marketing perspective, we kick in making sure that those deals actually, or those opportunities, get to pipeline, and then we kind of step out, and I think the hardest thing for MSPs when they're starting out with an engine is actually, what does a good lead look like? Does it align to your TCP? Do they understand the value that you are bringing to that relationship? And is it, is it real? There are some people out there that are actually scared to say no to a very good salesperson. So from our perspective, it's making sure that the leads are actually quality and that they're handed over properly, right? So there's instances where, we've seen it, and this is part of the learning curve that every MSP goes through, and you start putting leads into the engine and people kind of go, I don't know what to do with them, or what's the next step. And so this is where, the deals and sales and marketing working hand in hand, because there has to be that feedback loop. We've got some organizations that, get real top of funnel meetings, which is quite unusual. And so a lot of that instance was, educating the salespeople on, yes, this is a top of funnel meeting because they want to hear the story. There may not be an immediate opportunity, like it may not be the old band, budget, authority, need, timeliness, when you qualify a lead, but you've got to ask the right questions, and then you feed it back, and that lead could come back around in 12 to 18 months. And so a lead is not necessarily a one-hit wonder. I think that's the other thing that people should be taking away from this, is just because, they've come to an event, you've followed them up and they've said, not now, you should be going back. So that's kind of the marketing lens, is, a lead is not one and done, because they could buy one thing and then it becomes the retention and the cross-sell piece, the old land and expand. So from a marketing perspective, sometimes it's just struggling with the conversion. And when we're in a founder-led organization, a founder-led sales organization, there are a lot of shiny objects, right? And there are a lot of things that can happen along the way. And as founder-led sales, it's the thing that's screaming the loudest that gets your attention. It's not necessarily the lead that's sitting there quietly going, I'm waiting for you to call, right? So, time, space, opportunity. I think as it moves through the pipeline where it gets stuck, that's when it becomes Aaron's bag, right? But that's kind of the marketing lens that I would put over the top.
Cool.
I think part of the other challenge from that one, you talk about owner distraction. I think part of the biggest challenge there is that it isn't the noisiest thing, that lead, and you have said, I'll call you back in 6 months. And I mean, there's been plenty of times where we've had a lead, the lead has come in, we've spoken to that lead, there's no immediate opportunity, but we've gone, cool, I'll call you back in 6 months, and you call back in 12 because you forgot it 6 months and the opportunity's already gone. And so it is that sales and marketing piece that, with all due respect, most of you haven't got right.
I think that's a
balance between the two.
A lot of businesses, struggle with, and I actually put it down to one word, and that's consistency.
Yes.
Right. You have to consistently market, and you have to be consistent with your sales. It has to be an engine, right? Like,
Yep.
All those different cogs have to work together. I've seen more times than I can count, and I've certainly made this mistake back in the days of thinking a campaign was just doing an email blast out, or I've run an event.
Yeah, I was going to say an event.
That's it, right? And then not following up, not seeing the results. And I know a lot of MSPs that have spent a bucket load of money on running different events and things like that, and not treating it consistently, right? So happy for either of you to answer this. Aaron, I might start with you though. Why do you think consistency is such a struggle for most businesses, not just MSPs, in terms of actually marketing and sales?
KJ probably put it the best before. We live inside a shiny object world. Like literally, there is everything coming at us in every single moment. Like the best way to sell, the best way to close, the best way to market, the best way to, like, there is so much crap coming in. And I would argue that even when something starts and you pick something, if it doesn't deliver instant results, you're downtrodden, upset, and you're off into the next thing. So from a consistency standpoint, you're pivoting about 18 months earlier than you should. Norton just made a joke about 6 days. You're not wrong. Everyone wants a 6-day sale, but they don't exist, particularly in an MSP world. We are, and we've got a nurture program that we work with KJ and others on. It's called Breaking Up Marriages for a reason. You don't marry the girl after dating her once. You want to go out on a few dates, check each other out, go and do some things, experience what's going on. I mean, you're not getting married inside 1, 2, or 3 years generally, unless you're Britney Spears and, have a really hot dancer. But realistically, you're taking the time to understand and get to know each other. And you're not giving your clients that same respect by enabling them to get to know you, by understanding and getting to know them and taking that time over a period of time. Good business is not done in one meeting. Good business is done over 6, 12, 18, 24, 36 months where you guys build a trusted relationship. That's the consistency that must come into play.
So,
and I think,
go. You're going to probably jump into my next question anyway. So
I was going to say, we can quote all the statistics that everybody knows, right? 95% of the people are not ready to buy right now. And switching MSPs is actually one of the most hardest things for a customer to get their head around, right? It's having been in this industry longer than I care to imagine. And for whatever reason, and nobody has quite managed to crack this nut, but unless there is a cataclysmic failure or a real reason to change, people will just accept the status quo because of their MSP. They just keep doing it and they keep doing it and they keep doing it. But consistency has to be that we've got one MSP who my goal for 2026, literally the number one priority on the 1,000-foot view is make them sick of seeing this brand everywhere, right? That is, the goal that we've got, because you need to be constantly present, because if you're talking about somebody changing an MSP, you will go, I had that little problem. It's okay. 3 months later, that didn't quite go the way I wanted. 3 months later, but then something will happen that will embolden you to have that conversation. And that conversation can go one of two ways, because every MSP has their at-risk list and they should know who that is before that conversation happens, right? But you don't always. If that conversation doesn't go the way the customer expects, they will have seen you. They will have had that sort of brand recognition because they've constantly seen you. You've been in the face and you've highlighted a pain point going, and we see it, there's a couple of guys that are doing it really well through social in terms of talking about the ease of onboarding, right? How do you onboard even just a new staff member, right? Because everybody has their own complications within that. I have the nuances within that. And, I'm not going to lie, I've had some conversations with my MSP going, hey guys, this isn't going the way it should be going. But unless you are constantly present for when that switch flicks, that's when somebody shifts into that 5%.
That's the other side. The death by 1,000 cuts, you want to be the first phone call after the 1,000th cut. And unless you're present and unless you've been consistently present, you've been forgotten about already.
Okay, so, I like to call that the pain, right? They've got to have some pain and the pain's got to be great enough in order to make a change, right? And that could be shifting MSPs. That could be, hey, I'm a growing business and I've got to that critical threshold where I now need an MSP. The thing that you both sort of said, though, is that no comment. Moving on. Timing is one of those things that we just don't control, right? So marketing's job in that sense is to make sure that when that pain hits, that you're the first name they think of, right? And that's, the branding and all of that. So talking about, I touched on it earlier that, doing one email campaign is not enough. Doing one event is not enough. Really what we're looking at building is that engine, and that needs to be done through a multi-pillared approach. Multiple different marketing activities tied in with potential sales activities as well. But for an MSP, from a cost-effective, multi-pillared marketing approach, rather than blowing all of our, year's budget on one big hurrah, which could be a lot of fun, but I wouldn't recommend it. What does good look like from a multi-pillared marketing approach from an MSP's perspective? That most importantly is cost effective.
That is cost effective. I think the first thing that we always start with is understanding what your vendor stack is, because there is so much untapped MDF, marketing development funds, sitting in the channel, right? Now, if we talk about Dicker, if we talk about Ingram, if we talk about Ripe, if we talk about Crayon, Pax8, they all get funding from Microsoft. They all get funding from HP. They all get funding from Lenovo, right? And so my first question would be, if you want cost effective, this is going to be the fastest way to bring your cost down, is accessing that funding. Just simply picking up the phone to your disty rep and going, what funding is available? Hosted has funding available, just,
Thanks,
but does
everybody... You took my next line.
Yeah, but does everybody know that, right? In terms of, you can ask disty, and then if you're large enough, you unlock Microsoft funding. And that is funding that just appears every quarter, but you've got to have activities to do it. And we've got MSPs that our costs almost become cost neutral because the BAU activity that we are doing and charging for is the third party invoices that you need to claim, right? And so there is, I'm not going to lie, hundreds of thousands of dollars there available for MSPs. You need to ask the question and have that. Coming back to your original question in terms of that
how do you spend it?
How do you spend it? First place, doesn't cost you any money. Have a voice, have a position on LinkedIn, right? That doesn't cost you anything. I'm not going to lie, I have built myself essentially a one little seed KJ repository in Notebook. I've put all my content in there that I've generated over the years, and I go, give me ideas, right? This is the thought bubble, or here's a recent article that I find interesting. How can you link that? Now, I will always rewrite it because I don't want to get penalized for AI generated content, and everybody's superfluous to a bloody M dash, even though, grammatically they can be correct. Email also doesn't cost you anything. And so if you're generating content, what we're trialing for one of our clients this year is actually a LinkedIn newsletter. And that is an aggregation of all the content that we are creating for them, whether it be email, whether it be blog, whether it be, proposal, whether it be statistics that they're pulling from their own tools, right? You've got all this information. What are the conversation the sales reps are having? Share that information in terms of pain points. So we go LinkedIn, email. If you can get the funding, we've had some really good success with a very original campaign in terms of actual outdoor. It's called Out of Home. Regional MSP taken over the digital advertising at the airport. This thing has gone viral locally. It involves some yaks to the extent that yaks are now turning up on the CEO's desk is a bit of a joke because it's so left of field. That's all been paid for by MDF.
And I think this is the part, though, that the offsetting of the costs is a part of what you should be doing. And if you don't know how to do that, again, pick up the phone and have a chat with KJ, because this is where you need to start.
Yeah.
Then you're 100% on. I've actually got a partner that I was chatting to this morning, and they do their Microsoft through Pax8, and Pax8 is throwing them a $2,000 event budget, and they're running 4 different events throughout the year. And then they've got that money from them, and I think Kaseya is throwing them for as well. And it's just an education piece, right? They're just getting up and talking about particular topics and whatnot. It's fully funded, right? Apart from time.
You just talked about events. You just talked about events, and I want to pull that thread for 30 seconds. Please don't think of an event as needing to get 100 people into a room necessarily.
Oh, no.
That is just one type of event. Something that could work, and this is one of our methodologies and where we tie in really nicely with Crystal, is have a small 10 to 12 person event once a quarter or something to that effect, where you can drive all this funneled activity towards a central piece. It does not have to be a massive event to be successful. Hell, we had plenty of 4 people around a table for lunch in the same industry, just picking their brains for things that were annoying them. That's one of the things that we used to do from an event standpoint. It does not have to be bigger than Ben-Hur, but it should be a part of how you gather content, how you engage, and then you do not have to fund it yourself. There are plenty of vendors who will fund that.
And your event also doesn't have to, and I actually prefer it doesn't have to be selling something.
No, God no.
So, we've done events.
Product, ideally.
Correct. We've done events around resiliency, and we've got sports people in to talk about it. And people have come because of the sports, but then you talk about, sports resiliency, business resiliency, and you can tie that back to cyber. And then when, you have those conversations that go, how did that resonate with you? How can we help you? Because you've got to be, coming back to Aaron's point about trust, you've got to be building trust. And that is not by, will you buy my widget, or I want to sell you this service that will, do X, Y, Z for any months. What I would say is, sorry, Aaron, the Microsoft money, $2,000 per event, and it pains me to say that is the easiest cash you're ever going to get.
Yep.
And the majority
100%.
of providing that's Microsoft products, right? So through Disty, it's and I see
that
Copilot
logo on it.
Yeah, it is really interesting to see how few MSPs actually take advantage of that. Talking to the other vendors, and at the end of the year, there's money left over every year because it doesn't get taken up on. So there's a real opportunity there. And if you are looking to, run an event or, the surrounding pieces of it, have a look, reach out to your account manager with Hosted Network in our what do we call it, marketing concierge and our partner portal. There is actually some templates and things like that as well that can kind of give you some guidance and structure on how to do those. You can also leverage Hosted Network MDF and our team to help you organize those events for free. All right, so definitely take advantage of that. All right, let's moving on a little bit in the interest of time. I'm trying to keep it to the agenda today. So I like to think about a sales qualified lead as gamification. Right. So when I'm often talking about this kind of, multi-pillared marketing approach to my team, I often talk about it like a video game. Right. And that's where we talk from a marketing perspective. This is where we're scoring certain activities. But let's say, for example, every interaction gets to, we want to get to 100 points. We send an email, they engage in an email, they get 5. If they attend an event, maybe they're getting 50, right? It's a bit of fun before they actually become that sort of SQL. KJ, in your perspective from a marketing, how do you tell, you know, obviously you can add the points up and things like that, but you need that engine, right? If you're newer to that side of things, how do you tell if a lead is warming up and that maybe you should, you know, if you're running an event, strategically invite them versus someone that is brand new that you've not spoken to that event?
Yeah. So the wanky marketing term for it is first party data, right? Is if you have this engine, all the tools that you use, whether it's Glasshive, Active Campaign, Campaign Monitor, MailChimp, or what have you, they can create a good old pixel cookie, right? And you put that on your website, much like you do a Google Analytics cookie, right? And once somebody engages with your first piece of content, you can then see everything that they are engaging with. So coming back to your gamification, you know, we call it lead scoring, right?
That's the term I was thinking of.
Yeah.
We love our video games at Hosted Network. So
yeah. And you will not get that right the first time. And that's why that feedback loop with sales is really important, because we've got triggers set and you can see somebody. If somebody comes to the same web page 5 times in a 1-month period, there's something there generally, right? What is it? And that first touch, whether it's, you know, via a, you know, telemarketing resource or, you know, however your sales engine is, you know, how can we help you? It's not, hi, Big Brother's been watching, we've seen that you've looked at this page, you know, 6 times. But it's those conversations that as your engine matures and as you learn and as you get that feedback loop, it's that repetitive behavior. And we go, how many times has a person signed up to an event, whether it's online or in person, right? What type of content are people constantly engaging with one content theme as well? So you could have a cybersecurity theme, you could have a help desk password management. Like the themes are endless, right? But you can start to see where people are going. And that's essentially when you go, right, how do we pop them out, have that first conversation? And that's where I say the conversation doesn't end then. Because if they're not ready, it's like me going,
Give them back.
Yeah.
If they're not ready, give them back. If sales has gone and had that chat and it's like, that's cool. Yes, I can sell you the switch. Thank you. You know, high priced telemarketing company who charged me $25,000 for a single switch lead. Bad example of the way that plays out. But like that switch lead might get your foot in the door. But at that point in time, I should be handing that lead back to marketing to nurture. Because they can keep talking, they can keep touching, they can keep doing all those sorts of things. That's the consistency piece where that comes back to. Again, that's the second, third, fourth, fifth date. Correct. Well, they've got the pain. The problem with most MSPs and MSP customers is, with all due respect to all of you, you know where your customers' bodies are buried. And so the desire for that customer to move to another MSP and leave behind the knowledge of the bodies and the way that things work, that's a hard move for any customer to make away from you, because you have inherent knowledge of what their business does and how it works. So moving does require that 1,000th cut or that catastrophic thing to move. With all due respect, if you're leading with managed services, you're having a boring conversation and they're not moving for you because you're all the same.
Ouch.
You are. You're all boring. You're all the same. You're all saying the same thing. And if you're leading with managed services, you may as well not waste your time. That to Crystal's point, you've got to have a something business with them that talks to them, that helps them. Crystal made the comment around, what are you, I'm not calling you going, hey, are you ready to do business yet? Can we play? You're calling them going, hey, how can I help? How's your business going? What's challenging you at the moment? What are you doing about cybersecurity? Have you figured that shit out yet? What about, the journey you're on with your business growth, AI, whatever? Pick a term, pick a topic, and ask questions. Have a good quality discovery process that asks more questions than tells people what to do.
I think you really hit on something there, Aaron, is that asking the question is more powerful than you can possibly realize.
Huge.
Right. Don't talk product, just ask questions. Ask questions, whether it be at an event, asking questions of the audience and getting people to contribute, whether it be, hey, free for a coffee catch up, just to learn more about their business. I think that's really more powerful. Let's shift a little bit though, talked a bit about the pipeline generation, right, for almost new prospects, right? I want to start talking a little bit about how do we drive from our existing, how do we build pipeline from our white space? Where the hell do we start? Who wants to take that?
That's actually a sales and marketing conversation again. And unless KJ and I have sat down at the start of the year, and for most of you, that year is a financial year. For some of you, that year is a calendar year. Frankly, I don't care what your year is, but you need to be sitting down in the final quarter of the previous year and going, where are we kicking off for the next one? And probably each quarter thereafter to go, has anything dramatically shifted there? And what are we actually targeting here? Because campaigns help make conversations happen. Content sharing helps bring people's attention to things. And as long as sales and marketing are on the same page, marketing's messaging can be consistent and thought-provoking, but the account management process that you have in play, and this is the critical part from a sales standpoint, they've got to be there and in front of their customers consistently. And I'm pivoting from strategic business reviews to quarterly business reviews because I think they still need to be more frequent than we are allowing to at this point in time. I think they need to come back to a more frequent touch, but I also think they need to add value. And if those conversations you're having with your clients are not adding value, they're not going to talk to you. So you need to be having value. You need to be talking about gaps. You need to be understanding what the pain point is to that gap and talking about that. And then marketing needs to help you reinforce it or open the door to start with, and then continue doing both of those things.
Yeah, I think it comes back to you have so much knowledge within your own organization, right? Everybody can start to see ticket patterns. Everybody can start to see trends. And when you talk about you've got to be adding value, we call it the something for nothing, right? In terms of we're seeing this, is that a challenge for you? And sort of opening that door. And where marketing does really well is supports those conversations. And so sales goes in and, does that quarterly business review and follows up with, here are a couple of articles that you might find useful, and it's taking the white paper, or it's taking the ebook, or it's taking the blog post, or it's, taking just a LinkedIn link or a video link, it's utilizing, because content is not one and done as well, much like a lead isn't. Here are all the things that we think you might find useful from the conversation that we've just had.
I think that ties also very, very nicely into new business as well. Because if you're not coming out of the event going, hey, we had a chat about ... Here's an article we wrote 6 months ago about this that I just thought I'd share with you. A good BDM, a good hunter will actually take that data and utilize it for their advantage and then feed that data back to marketing. Going, I've just sent this, or can we send this, or work together to make sure that you are, again, both on the same page, you both understand where it's at. Tracking notes and activities and keeping consistency there is also critical. So that you remain on the same page.
What if you're the same person? What if you're you're the owner-led, you're the owner, you're out there, you're doing BD, you're doing account management, you're doing HR, you're doing everything else, right?
Yep.
Because we've talked about a lot of different things, and if that's great if you're a more established team, we can, but if we are a time poor, owner that's being pulled in 100 different directions, what are the foundational items that they need to be trying to do on a regular, consistent cadence? If you can give, KJ, have you got sort of 2 or 3 things that you can, bits of wisdom?
Look, I think, and we were actually talking about it before this call, start recording your calls, start recording your conversations, right? Because they can become a wealth of knowledge that enables you to create content easily. What are those pain points? What are the trends? What is a reoccurring theme across all those client conversations that we're having, right? And so when we look at that, I think, coming back to if we're talking specifically about cross-sell, what information is in your own ecosystem, what is your ticket volume like, and you can start to see, potentially where one client is, logging more tickets than usual. The one thing, and I think I actually said this last time, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Pick one thing and be consistent with it. Now, that one thing could be posting on LinkedIn once a week. That one thing could be I'm blocking 1 hour a day where I'm just going to make calls and follow up. That one thing could be, right, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to put some thoughts on a piece of paper, which can be the email that I send out going, here are the things that I found interesting that goes to your existing customer base. It has to just be one thing and it has to be consistent, because then people
It also
expect it.
That it doesn't have to be every day. It can be once a week. And this is the thing. Something is better than nothing, and something consistent is better than something whenever you feel like it or remember it or whatever. And you've got to block out your time to do that. And that comes across marketing, that comes across sales, that comes across, if you are that one single person who's doing the marketing, then write an email, write your musings for the week and send it around to everybody, or write your musings and post it onto LinkedIn. It doesn't really matter what thing you're doing, as long as something is going out there. It is your opinion, your thought leader, your piece, your whatever. I mean, holy shit. Some people on LinkedIn are incessant with their talk and their nonsense that goes up on there. And some of that nonsense is actually really good. You don't need to be that voracious or that often. Once a week is enough, because again, you're only trying to land one net new, right-sized client every single month. It's only one a month. You do not need to light the world on fire because your team can't onboard them all. One right-sized client a month, guys. That's it.
Interesting.
Just needs consistency.
What you guys, I'm thinking of our different MSPs that we deal with, because I'm, get added to a lot of the different marketing databases across the different MSPs. And it's in terms of that consistency, which we've touched on a lot today. I'm thinking of the guys that, send it's once a fortnight as a bit of thought leadership on LinkedIn. Another
That's
guy
okay.
is a one-man band, but he does a promotional email about bits and pieces and with a bit of thought leadership once a month, right? But it pops into my mind, and I haven't unsubscribed. It's just like, oh, hey, I see it. And it's like, oh yeah. Anyway, consistency. There's some great little tidbits of, what you can do as a starting point as well, if you are, depending on where you're at in terms of your sales and marketing maturity. I've got a question here though. Keen for thoughts. And this is going to be an interesting one. So social media posting, is AI generated content, provided it's on brand, considered as okay? Like if you are a starting point.
I'm going to let KJ answer that one from a marketing standpoint.
There are two sides to every coin, right? There is something is better than nothing, but does it have a point of view? Does it offer an opinion? Does it make a decision easier for anyone? Because, we all look at, all the AI generated stuff, and we can all now start to spot it, right? And the latest thing I've seen this week is, here is the structure that AI writes in and how you can identify whether something is written by AI. And then there was another phrase. In the realms of something is better than nothing, and you're starting out, yes. The caveat, if you've got the time, tweak it. Just make it sound like you. Social media content, by the flip side, it is seen for 30 seconds. This is a conversation we have internally. When somebody was, I really want to tweak that. And I went, this is going to be seen for 30 seconds. This is the cost to the customer. Is it actually worth it? But this is what you need to be thinking about.
And I think that then brings me into my side of the sales side of the fence, that if you've taken a position on social media, yes, it's only seen for 30 seconds, which means that probably most of the people that you're hoping see it actually don't. The second half to that is, if you are doing other things of that ilk? What is the sales position on that? How are sales bringing people's attention to that? Hey, we put a thing up on LinkedIn. We were playing with AI, and this is what we did, and it was fun. I mean, there's a mob up north or south of Brisbane who literally threw themselves into an AI video and put it out, and it went viral, and off it went. But it garnered a conversation, and they drove that conversation hard within their sales and marketing channels because they talked about it with everyone. They talked about it in client meetings. They talked about it everywhere, and they used it to build credibility. And to Crystal's point, if you've got a position and you're having an opinion or taking something that you can hitch your wagon behind that you believe in, and then have future conversations and find other people who go, hey, that's really cool. Let's do something about that. That's where you start to create a point of difference.
Adding on to that as well, I think that AI is one of those things these days that if you are time poor, you can use it.
Delightful.
It's great from that side of it, right? But the theme of the day is going to be consistency, right? Using it as a method for a consistent voice, right? You can rather than just jumping into something like ChatGPT and going, oh, hey, write me a LinkedIn post, take a step back, build a foundational item where you're describing what your voice is, what your value prop is, what your opinions are in that sort of sense, so that when it does spit something out, it's actually adding that value. And, as a starting point, that's probably going to be better off rather than just going, oh, hey, I need a LinkedIn post for blah. We got another one here from Gab. So I'll mark that one as answered. Gab says, how do marketing and sales talk to each other in a useful way about leads? This is an interesting one. Without it turning into vague opinions or gut feelings or ego. I'm going to throw in there as well, because I'd love to know that.
If I may, KJ,
Go.
You've got to have a process. You've got to have a process for it. And KJ and I have done this multiple times now, where we have an understanding of what a lead looks like when it's untouched or has never been touched. They are systems and statuses inside. So ConnectWise is generally our poison of choice in terms of most, some of the MSPs that we work with. And there's got to be a way that you manage when someone's a lead and the different phases through there, how it becomes an MQL, how it becomes an SQL, and how then it becomes a prospect that you're actively working on all the way through to a client, to the future things that are going on within that particular customer base. I'll be honest, all customers are fair game. All customers are fair game. They've opted in. They are clients of yours, and so they are absolutely fair game. Marketing does need good information, and you can use most of your systems to gather that data. We have coffee preferences. We have drink preferences. We have, do you have kids, hobbies, or otherwise, sitting inside contact records inside ConnectWise, as an example. You can create all this data there, and the more data you have, the better and more useful that is. But from a marketing and sales talking to each other, you've got to have regular engagement. Either sales and marketing have a single marketing meeting, multiple marketing meetings, or a sales meeting, or whatever it happens to be. Unless you two are in the same meetings at the same time and agreeing on what the path is and then executing on those paths, you are doing that entire business a disservice.
Yeah. I think to, Gab's question, if we come back to that feedback loop, sales and marketing should agree on basically, and we've built it, a feedback form that is filled out after meetings. And everybody agrees what is that criteria, right? And so it's about getting on the same page and agreeing to what that qualification is before that meeting's even happened, right? And it is, are they an existing customer? What, I'm just trying to remember what it would be. Have they got budget allocated? What is the buying timeline in terms of this? Who are the stakeholders? And, that almost comes back to, when I started out in this industry, every lead had to be BANT qualified.
Yes.
Right? Budget, authority, need, timeliness.
Time frame. Yep.
Time frame. Yeah. So how do you basically, everybody agrees, and especially because when your sales cycle can be 12 to 18 months, 6 days is glorious when it's been a cataclysmic failure and everybody wants to shift fast. But what does that look like? And those metrics are pre-agreed, right? And then you have, and this is a carryover from, the larger organizations, you have win-loss deal forums, right? This is where everybody needs to remember, this is not necessarily a reflection on how somebody's done their job. It's the process that everybody has been part of, and everybody has to learn from that process.
I think that process piece is the critical part, because whether it's forms, whether it's questions that you must ask at every stage of the process, one of the things that I do in terms of moving a prospect or a lead from a marketing qualified lead to a sales qualified lead is we have a discovery process to get through that position. A marketing qualified lead is somebody who, without talking to them, in my world, is somebody who, without talking to them, you can understand that they fit your TCP. Do they have the right size, location, basics that you can understand? To go one step further and start unpacking maturity, you need to actually talk to these people. And that's where the discovery process comes in, where you validate all the things that you had thought originally. And then I actually make my teams present back to the sales team. So if you want to move something from a marketing qualified to a sales qualified lead, we have a system by which you do that, and you have to walk into that meeting and going, here, I have moved it to a sales qualified lead. If there is no opportunity currently, it stays in the lead funnel and marketing can use it for whatever they feel like. If there's an active opportunity, it moves to a prospect. And you work it accordingly. There are different activities. Come and visit the office. Come to the events, do all those sorts of things. But there are different clear understandings of who is responsible at each area, who agrees on what to do for that period of time. And there's a clear and consistent communication between sales and marketing regularly, not just when you feel like it.
Solo has put a comment here in the chat sort of saying they should be in the same team. Thoughts? For, against?
I think, same team.
Depends on, we're different people, with all due respect.
Look, I think in terms of, from a marketing perspective, there should always be dotted lines, right? In terms of who is reporting to who. It is a marketing manager's job to be filling a telemarketer's BDR, SDR, whatever you want to call them, pipeline, right? So if they are not joined at the hip, whether that is functionally the same team, we're starting to see it in larger organizations that those BDRs are now sitting within the marketing team, right? And that all rolls up to pipeline. But we've got to be honest, most MSPs come back to the founder-led, don't have a team. They have, they have themselves, they have an accounts person, and they have a great team of engineers, right?
Correct.
Team can be a collective group of people working towards the same goal.
And I think that's probably the best summary of it. Do you need those resources in the same team per se? Not necessarily, but the people who hold accountability for those roles must work together.
Going to do a little plug from a hosted side. I often talk to partners about if we're looking at voice, right? Your text can be a great, lead generation. They're out on site, your field techs, they've got an old phone system or they've got those different bits and pieces, to let them know, hey, encourage your text to sort of say, hey, your phone system, did you know we do that? We can help you with that, right? And then all of a sudden your techs are actually, and I've seen a lot of MSPs even incentivize their techs for, $50, $100, whatever it is, to sort of help and encourage that. And that applies, that could be applied to a whole bunch of different areas, right? Could be refreshes. Hey, if the client's, systems are out of date or whatever the case, there's an opportunity there. Get them to ask the question or flag that up to someone in sales. The two sides of the same coin. All right, so we're nearly at time. We've only got 10 more minutes.
Say, KJ. KJ with the Q&A from Darren. And the ways to outsource it. I will do a small plug for KJ and I here. KJ and One Little Seed do the marketing side of the fence, where they talk structure, strategy, how are you going out, and all the things that KJ's talked about. Part of my business is a telemarketing team, in addition to the sales and process and procedure and all those governance pieces. That is where we've overlapped in a number of customers really successfully, where KJ has defined the vision and direction for marketing, the content. We've got the telemarketing in the middle, and then the sales process to make sure it's received properly, landed, governed, appropriately pushed through the opportunity pipeline. That's where the sales and marketing piece comes together. And yes, you can outsource all of that should you wish while you're growing your business. But eventually, you need to replace us at some point in time, whatever that time is right for your business. And that will be determined in the future as you grow. There you go, Darren. There's the plug for both of us.
Insert QR
Carry
code.
on.
You guys
Insert QR
look
code
them
here.
up on LinkedIn, etc., etc. All right. So starting to conclude, if we've talked about a little bit about prospects not being ready, and some final tips around the long sales cycle, right? Because a lot of effort goes into generating an SQL and then quoting it. And if it's a project, even more effort goes into quoting it, right? And too often or not, I see that a project gets quoted and then we get busy and we don't follow it up, and maybe they don't do anything, maybe they do. What are some best practice to try and keep that, the flow going? Be it from a marketing, KJ?
I think I use this anecdote of I'm a business owner. I also sit in, for clients as their marketing manager. And, when you talk about life and you talk about balancing, and something that has stuck with me for many years is my therapist said to me, what I'm taking from this is if it's in your calendar, it's going to happen. And I went, actually, fair cop. Like my PT sessions in my calendar, my netball games are in my calendar, everything else is in the calendar. You need to find the way that works best for you. If my husband doesn't put something in my calendar and we're meant to be somewhere, oh, tough shit. Wasn't in the calendar, sorry, made other plans, right? Depending on the person that you are, if you're like me and your life is kind of defined by the calendar and the structure, make the time, block the time. You've always got to work on your business as well as in your business, right? So make the time. And like Aaron said, it doesn't have to be once a day. It can be once a week. But make that time and block it however. If it's a Trello board, if it's an Asana board, if it's a calendar, however you do it, make the time, because behavior repetition builds habit. And then you're doing it and you're not about it.
Every single day I would walk into ConnectWise, I would open up my opportunity pipeline or my activities list, and I would go, who's got my money today? And that's a very pure sales response. But at the end of the day, in my mind, leads are people that don't do business with you. Prospects are people who are ready to buy, and clients are clients. And all three are differently engaged with and different touch points, but you need to understand what that looks like for you. You need to make the time to engage with those different types of people. You need to understand how you're going to engage with those different types of people over a 6-12 month basis, and then do it. Because if you plan and you don't do anything, then phenomenal waste of your time and effort at the start of that period of time. You've still got to actually execute. Even if it is, I just commit to doing one thing each week in my calendar and do that only. Even if all you can manage is fortnightly, something is better than nothing. Something consistent will yield results eventually.
Cool. Well, thank you guys. Let's wrap this up with, I guess, a quick practical from a example around sales and marketing. KJ, what's one marketing change that you think MSPs should make this quarter in like 1 or 2 sentences?
I think stop trying to, it sounds brutal, but coming to Aaron's point, MSPs are the same, guys. You're all trying to sell
Boring
a service, right?
Hey, it's okay, guys. We provide NBN. It's pretty boring. It's all right. That's okay.
It's the same thing.
But I would encourage everybody to go and do something brave. Go and take that weirdest idea that you've got and just give it a shot. Like, what was the phrase last year or the year before? Like, shoot your shot, I think was the, I don't know, 6, 7 of 20.
Oh, please
24, whatever.
Stop it. She brought it in, Ben. You did it.
But don't be afraid to challenge the norm, right?
100%.
Yeah, have some
Your
fun with it.
customers,
I like that.
your customers want that from you. With all due respect, and this is going to be mine, is go and talk to them. Stop talking to them about what you want. Start talking to them about what they're doing. Because I'll put money on the fact that none of them have got an AI journey. None of them have actually had any time really to, probably some of them have had a chance to have a think about cybersecurity now. We've been punching them in the face with long enough.
Hope.
But find a point of difference. Find something that you're not thinking about or that you are starting to get the itchings of and go, hey, have you thought about this? Let's unpack this together. Go and
When you
talk to your
find that thing,
customers.
you'll probably find that copies and pastes to pretty much all your other customers as well.
100%. And then the
Don't have to
project money
reinvent the
will
wheel every
rain.
time.
Well, my challenge for all of you is stop having the managed services conversation and start treating it like the clip of the ticket it is. I've just done this massive AI project or this massive cybersecurity maturity project or whatever the hell the project happens to be. And at the end of it, we'll just tick the managed services box and we'll move on because, we're better than the guys that you're currently using. Par for the course. Let us do this project excellently and then just tick the box on managed services on the way through. Treat it as the fries, not the main meal.
Fries, not the main meal. With that, KJ, Aaron, thank you for all of your insights today. Hopefully everyone on the call, or if you're watching the video in or the podcast later, is able to take away a few light bulb moments. Hit up KJ and Aaron on LinkedIn. They also post lots of good tidbits throughout and whatnot as well. Let me quickly share my screen though, and just to, if you do want to watch this or any of our past episodes, MSPsinconversation.com is where you can check them all out. And up and coming episodes will be posted shortly. I think we will have the next one. We're just scheduling it in, but keep an eye out for the email around that as well. Everyone, thank you for your time. Hopefully you took something away. KJ, Aaron, appreciate your time as always. That was great. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys. Cheers.